everybody. Welcome back to another podcast of I Am That Bitch podcast. And I have the one, the only Paul Vato in studio today or online today. What happened? You got balloons. I saw that.
I just went like this,
Oh,
and the balloons came up. It
well, look at
must
that.
be. It's,
Hi, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I miss you.
Aw, I miss you too. You were one of my favorites at PodFest, I have to say.
You know what? I'd have to be totally honest with you and agree with you. I was also my favorite at Pod.
You're a fucker.
Hey, I'm that bitch.
Hey, no, you don't want, as a man, you don't want to be that bitch. Come on.
No, you're right. You're right. That didn't come out the way I intended to. No, of course you were one of the highlights of
Aw,
Podfest.
thank you. Thank you. Actually, so we met at PodFest, everybody. I went up to him in a bar. No, just kidding. Actually, that's true.
That is true. That is
You were
true.
surrounded by women,
Also true.
also true. And I knew one of the girls that you were with, and we sat down, and that was it. We were inseparable ever since.
I agree 100%. I mean, from I hope your boyfriend's not listening or husband.
Husband. It's
I hope
okay. He knows.
he also knows about your boyfriend. Wow, that's cool.
Yes.
We were inseparable the whole time.
No, it was a good time. You're a good time. You're very, very funny. And even someone whispered to me, they're like, I've seen him do stand up and he's really funny. And I'm like, okay, that's great.
I was trying out all my new bits because I went up at Podfest. We did both improv. We opened the headliner show with some improv, and sometimes it's tough because improv and stand up sometimes don't mix, but I'm trying to bridge the world together. We did an improvised three improvised podcasts that were like 5 minutes each, so it
Yeah.
was a great opening to Podfest, and it was on topic. And then I did the amateur night because I've done very little stand up, so it's great that that person saw me do it. uh, so I was a little bit out of my comfort zone,
Yeah.
but it
It
went
did
really well.
show. It did
Thank
show.
you.
It went really well, Paul. I followed the comedy track at Podfest. A lot of you that haven't been, there's like different tracks. Like there's the Christian track, the military track, the monetization, comedy, branding. There's so much learning at Podfest. And I tended to do branding and comedy. And only because I think I like the people that I met and I kind of just stuck to you guys, like you, Larry, Red Hat Larry, um, and then there was Hillary and Jen Harding. It was just a great bunch of people. But I went to amateur night. I missed the opening show. I don't know what happened there. I don't know what happened there. I don't know why I missed it, but the improv night was actually really, really good.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Well, Stephen Kimbrough and I worked pretty hard at putting together that comedy track for Podfest. I don't know if you know the background, so
I don't.
w-
So I was going to ask you, how did
Mhm.
you end up with Podfest? Like, how did you get there?
Well, I've been there. I flew. No, I'm just kidding. Boy, were my arms tired. I was there in 2022 when it was in May because of COVID restrictions and kind of maybe just lifted, even though it's Florida, so I don't think they've ever even had COVID down here, which was great. Um, so I was there for 2022, and then I missed 2023 and 2024. But Kimbrough along the way, he'd been pitching them to do an open mic night, and it had been like, no, maybe next year, and then finally last year 2024 they did it, and it was a wild success. So
Yeah.
then along the way he pitched, hey, we should do a comedy track because like you mentioned, there was a financial track, there was even a dental track for
Yes.
dentists, so a
Yes.
Christian track. There were all these tracks, a fin track, for finance and equipment, I believe,
Yep.
so a lot of learning, which is great. And we're like, this goes so well because the world of comedy and podcasting definitely intersect. You
For
have
sure.
every single stand-up comedian that's somewhat, being successful, also having a podcast. You have podcasters, I think, that are naturally funny, but then now how do you harness that? And so one of for me was very important was I did a talk on the power of yes and, which is an
Yes,
improv technique, which kind of lends to being present and listening. And yes, I accept what you have to say, and then I add more. And it's not just a technique for podcasting, but for improvising scenes, but also relationships, work. It's a team building exercise as well. So that was just part of it. Steve Kimbrew taught his class, which was everyone has 3 minutes. And I'm glad it was at the end of the track because instead of going only half an hour, it ended up going an hour because people had questions and afterwards. So
yeah.
it was great that he was able to answer all those questions on how anyone can put together 3 minutes. And it's a course that we have on our pnnacademy.org website where you can sign up to learn how to podcast or do stand up, or you can come to PodFest, and it's one of the classes that we
It
teach.
was great. Like that. So I didn't know about PodFest until probably a month before this one around because I was in a speaking competition and I came in third. And one of my prizes was with a thank you, was with a I guess a publisher, and she comes down to her name's Sarah Bean, and she's like, "Well, you should promote your podcast, and you should go to Podfest." And I'm like, "What is that?" Like, I had no clue. I called a friend. I called my friend Karen, and she lives in Nova Scotia. And I said, "Do you want to meet me in Florida? We got, And she's like, "Yeah, sure, let's go." Because she should really do her own podcast too on traveling. But I didn't know about it, and I got to tell you, I had a blast. And you guys are so amazing and so helpful. Like you guys are really genuinely wanting to help people grow, be better at everything that they do. It's just if you haven't been, anybody, you need to go. I'll be there next year. I'm actually going to apply to speak, so hopefully I'll be one of the chosen ones.
Well, absolutely. And if not, I mean, I can't make promises because ultimately Podfest has the yay or nay decision making. But I think you would also do great on one of our panels, whether it's our comedy panel or maybe we'll even do more panels because you're a funny person, you're hilarious, and otherwise we wouldn't have maybe gotten along so well. But I
But I still
think
need
you,
to learn from the master there, Paul. I didn't, I couldn't go up on stage and do the improv or the stand up. I think I'm a little bit nervous. I think,
Mhm.
like I'm more like Matt Rife, where, or Kill Tony, like where they interact with the audience and you start cutting each other up. And that's my kind of comedy. But when you put me on a stage and you want me to script myself, it's like, oh, fuck, I can't.
Got it. Got it. Well, it's all a learning curve. The good thing about, say, improv is that you're usually up there with other people. So you
Yeah.
help each other, you save each other. It's not just a one person show. Stand
Oh,
up, it's its own art form, and it is, you should have something scripted because you can't just rely on the audience, but it's
yeah.
nice like what Matt Rife does, which is crowd work as they call it.
Yeah.
But you can't rely on that because I think you need to have a healthy balance of both because if you show up and the audience isn't interacting with you, then you got nothing.
You're fucked.
So
Yeah, you got nothing.
so you just need a
Absolutely.
strong opener. Mine worked. It probably wouldn't work right now because my hair is growing out, but I went and got a haircut. So a lot of it was things that actually have just kind of happened. I went and got a haircut, and I ended up looking like Kim Jong Un. So I take my hat off, and it was literally like shaved on the
I
sides, and
remember.
yeah. And I go, well, if you squint hard enough, I kind of look like a lesbian Kim Jong Un, and I and it worked as a great opener. So you need a great opener. I was also doing a callback because the last two comedians before me had a very sexual set. They were females, and one I forget what her name is, but she does the nude show. She's a nudist who does the nude show. So
I
there was
missed
talk
that.
about. Yeah, that was fantastic. And then before her was one of our panelists, Nadine, who talked about having a lazy tongue, but then it got fixed, so it was no longer a lazy tongue. I forget, but it was very sexual. So I walked up there and I wish I had it right here. The shirt for orgasm equally. There was a person that for some reason she thinks that women don't orgasm as much as men. What would I know, huh? And
She's
so
probably right.
I'm sure she is. But how's that even fair? Like I'm done in literally 3 minutes, 4 minutes,
Yeah,
and now you want to orgasm equally, and you want me to 22 down? That's not equal. It's too much work. No
that's
thanks.
why I make sure I go first.
you, you you and I are not going to work out because that's we'll be both trying to bust first, and this week so I can for me so I can take my nap, and so this orgasm equally, lady, but she gave me a shirt, so I used it to like cover the front of my pants, and it was just a callback to insinuating that I was turgid and uh, very excited. So it just 3 minutes went very fast.
Yeah.
But you need to have some solid bits, if you will, and then go into the crowd work when you see something. And I think it helps to know a little bit about everything. You're from Canada, so instantly I would insult you by going, "Oh, or as I like to call it, snow Mexico." You know, or call it Canada,
Oh,
or I don't know, whatever stereotypes are,
what
or
is it about fucking Americans in Canada? Let me tell you.
I we're kind of like one and the same, but then there's still this division.
But it's
But
not. There's like, I used to live in the States, and it's like you guys know nothing about us. Like some people really do fucking believe that we live in igloos.
oh, you don't?
And, fuck off. And that we literally have snow all year round. Like there's summer, spring, fall. Like we have everything here. It's like it's crazy to me how little they know.
Right. I mean, and like you call it the states, we call it America, but also, we some people don't realize that Canada is in America, Mexico is in America. It's
Right.
it's all North America.
It's all
It's
North
so
America.
I get it. I also like messing with Canadian comedians, like which I've used this on several, and they've giggled, like Dan Aykroyd or Mike Myers, famous comedians that are Canadian, which is I like to tell them to stay out of our country, quit coming over here and taking our comedy jobs. So
Just because we're funnier than you fuckers, it doesn't
you
matter.
guys are natural born comedians. Some of the funniest people I've ever met. So
Yeah,
maybe it's
Jim
a little bit
Carrey, Mike Myers, Dan Aykroyd,
Jim Carrey,
Andrea, what's her name?
Martin.
Andrea Martin.
Sure.
Isn't she Canadian too? Second City,
I
anyway.
mean, I would imagine because she came out of SCTV, so
Yeah,
I would imagine that she is or is Canadian.
yeah.
Yeah. Now,
Uh, what's the eyebrow guy? Schitt's Creek.
oh yeah, of course, Eugene Levy,
Eugene Levy. God, we're
very funny.
funny.
John Candy, all the
John Candy.
people.
Actually, John Candy. John Candy actually lived in my neighborhood where we grew up. And you know who used to come into my dad's restaurant, and nobody knew it. Well, they did, but he was at Second City at the time. Was Belushi,
Oh sure, Jim Belushi, John Belushi. I mean,
the dead one?
yeah, John. Yeah, of course, the dead one, John.
And he would sit, and he would just. My dad said he would just stay to himself and just sit at a table and be very quiet. And but he lived in the neighborhood. Yeah, he used to come into the restaurant all the
It,
time.
and where are you in
Well,
Canada?
I was born and raised downtown Toronto, but now I'm in the burbs.
Got it. But yeah, because of course, Toronto has the second city
Second City, yeah.
is there, but early in the early days, yeah, that's where SCTV came out of, and a lot of Chicago people. There was a lot of crossover
Yeah.
with that. Now, I'm sorry, wait, and are you Greek?
Greek Macedonian.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I shouldn't even ask because you said your father had a restaurant, so of course you were,
Yeah,
and
and my dad was also very funny. Like he'd fuck with people when they ordered okay, the skit, the Saturday Night Live skit, the
cheeseburger,
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 sure,
cheeseburger. And Belushi, that was Belushi.
yeah.
And I said to because he dressed like my dad in the restaurant, and he had a cigarette. My dad always had a cigarette. And I said to my brothers, I almost want to say that came from dad, because people come in and go, "Hey, Pop," they'd all call them Pops, and they'd say, "Can I have a cheeseburger?" "Sure, cheeseburger. You want French fries? You want big or large, Cook?" He wouldn't say small or large, he'd say big or large. And then you say, "Okay, can I have
Okay.
everything? No onions?" "Okay, I put extra onions." "Okay, no problem." You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I mean, they claimed that it was the Billy Goat Tavern in Chicago. But
Well, maybe.
but I'm not, I'm not saying that your father didn't influence, because if he went into his restaurant and he saw that, and then he saw it in Chicago, or vice versa, he's like, yeah, these Greeks
We're all the same.
are all the same. It's the same guy. Cheeseburger, cheeseburger, cheeseburger. It was such a funny
Well,
sketch, but it really hit home in
yeah.
Chicago because we had that Billy Goat Tavern, and there was a lot of Greeks in Chicago. A beautiful Greek town. I don't know if it still exists in Chicago, but
I've never been to
yeah.
Chicago. It's one of the cities I
Oh,
need to go to.
you would love it. You let me know when you want to do that, and there's podcast movement is coming up in
Okay.
Chicago. April. It's the like March 31st through April 3rd, I believe.
Oh, I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be
Where are you going to
sitting on
be?
a beach in the Dominican.
Oh, so
Excuse me.
I'm in the cigar business, so that make my cigars in the Dominican Republic.
Oh, nice. Nice. So, okay, so you're in the cigar business, you're in comedy. How long have
Mhm.
you been doing comedy? Your whole life?
Well, it's one of those things where you think that you're funny, and I wanted to really learn how to do stand up, and it was, before really the internet was popular. Now I'm gonna, at the risk of aging myself here, but I also, like a Greek man, I was like, do I go study comedy or do I by this business? I had an opportunity to get into the gourmet ice cream business, which then I turned into gourmet ice cream and coffee. So I put aside my comedy for a while, and everyone was always saying, "Man, you should do stand up. You should do comedy. You should do comedy." So it was kind of like, fine, I'll try it. I'll do it. And I after I owned my business for about 5 years, then was like, let me, now that it's kind of running and doing well, let me go and see if I can learn how to do stand up. So I went into Chicago and signed up at the Improv Olympic. And it
Oh,
turned out that they don't do stand up, they do improv comedy. But I'd already paid, I already signed up. And Sharna, the owner, she was like, well, when you introduce yourself, I'm like, I'm here, I'd like to learn how to do stand up. And she goes, well, we don't do stand up. We teach long form improvisation. I was like,
oh,
well, I already paid, so show me what you guys do, and if I like it, I'll stick around. And that following Monday, they encouraged the students to go watch the show, which was called the Armando Diaz Theatrical Experience and Hootenanny, and it was now they just call it the Armando Show, where it was a monologist, and then people would improvise based on what that monologist stories they told. The monologist would take a suggestion, whatever they heard first or whatever they liked. They would then
okay.
tell stories about it, and then the actors, the improvisers would come in and improvise based on that monologist story. And it's still a very classic form that they use. And I fell in love with it. I was like, oh my god, how did they do that? I knew nothing about callbacks or things like that. So I ended up then just falling in love with improv and not never really doing stand up. But I guess I've been funny my whole life, but it's like a shotgun. You're funny and just throw it out there, as opposed to then learning how to focus it like a laser. So you need training, I think. Some people just do it naturally. And I know some people with stand up, they're like, well, you can't teach people that. Either you have it or you don't. But I think you can teach people techniques
I think
that will serve
techniques, like,
you.
I think I need to learn the techniques. I've been told by many people in the industry that I need to be a stand-up comic. They find me very funny. My husband calls me mildly entertaining. Um, but my husband's actually very funny as well. He's more like the dry sense of humor, kind of like the Seinfeld, where he'll crack a joke, and it'll take you a second, and then you'll go, wait, what? Wait, what did you say? And then you bust a gut. Where I'm just like no filter and shit just comes out of my mouth. Sometimes I shock myself. I'm like, oh wow, that was really good. That just came out of my mouth. Holy shit. Um, but yeah, I definitely need some training. That's something I want to talk to you guys about, you and Steven. I want to do the yes and. Are you up for it?
Yeah, like just do a little either sketch.
Yeah.
Now, so that the people that may not know, because of course I'm like, yeah, everybody knows what that is. But then when I took a poll on Hoova, which is the app that we used at PodFest, uh, what do you know about Yes And? Have you heard of it? Most people are like, no, I don't know, or that means it's time to talk, or whatever, something. So for those that don't know, yes and is agreement and addition. So I like to go. I'm sure I heard this from someone, but it's like I give you a block of information. You take that block, and then you give me back two blocks. So we start building like an upside down pyramid. So
Okay.
one block, then you give me yes, and I'm also late for dinner. Or I'm sorry, we're late for dinner again. So now you've agreed that you're my wife, and now you've also told me that we're always late for dinner. That's now more information.
Right.
And then it's not so much that it's an argument, but then I give you back three blocks of information. Well, it's because, well, honey, and it depends how you say it. Or, well, honey, it's because you always got to do your makeup three times, whatever. But so now we're just building, but we're never denying each other. Like, oh, I'm not your wife, I'm your sister. Because now, as an improviser, that while that is true, but as a sister wife, but you don't want to make me justify stuff. I don't want to make you justify it. So that's why the yes and is agreement. And when you first start, you will hear yes, I agree, like almost like yes, I agree with you, and I'm adding more information. And then as you just get better, you just drop the yes and you just know that it's a yes, and then here's more information. So it could be, used to build a scene. I One of the examples that I used on my slides was to tell we had people kind of split off in groups, or two person groups, and kind of play back and forth with, let's go to the Grand Canyon. This initiation, so I could initiate that with you.
Okay.
Let's go to the Grand Canyon.
Yes, and let's go by helicopter.
Of course, honey, you always find the most expensive way to get somewhere, but it's your birthday, so yes, I will spring for a helicopter. And then we're also going to do some bungee jumping off the helicopter.
Yes, we can do that, but I think we should do shrooms first.
See, now instead of saying yes, but, because now
Okay.
you stop the action, you don't, because you said you had the idea of we'll do shrooms first. And also, it's tough because we're supposed to be in the moment as opposed to what we want to do in the future.
Okay.
But as a game, as an improv game, that's fine. So, and and I can't wait to take mushrooms with you. As a matter of fact, I've got some right here. And so oh my God, you've tricked me into doing mushrooms again. I'm gonna, you know how horribly they affect me.
Horrible. Okay, see, I'm stumped now. Like, see, this is like where I feel
Well,
stuck.
see, now you know that mushrooms affect me horribly. Now you just found a little game, and the better you get at it, the quicker or the more comfortable you get with people. You're like, oh, mushrooms affect him horribly. Okay, everything from now on is going to have mushrooms in it. The tea that I give them. And then if you're working with other people, everyone knows that mushrooms are. So now everyone, like, hey, you want a Rice Krispie treat? And of course I'm going to eat it and go like, oh, that's delicious. What's in there? Oh, high powerful mushroom hallucinogenics. Like what? Like, but it's also dangerous because you don't want to improvise drunk or high because but if a real character would take mushrooms, but you find the games in that, like things that affect me are now the game that you're going to try to make me do. I said, we're going to jump out of the airplane, bungee jump out of the helicopter because in I didn't say it, but in my mind, I'm like, I know you're terrified of heights. And I could have said that, but I could have been like, but then it's like I'm giving it to you. I'm trying to be sneaky.
Okay.
You can either go like, no, no, and you can disagree that way. Yes and is agreement, but you have to agree with the person, but not with their idea. You don't have to agree with their idea. If I was like,
Okay.
now you're gonna
Okay.
go murder people, you're like, well, that's not what my character. That's not what I would do, or I don't agree with that, and that's okay. But you say yes to the person. You can say yes to the person, but not to the
And this is
idea.
people, this is why you take courses. This is why you
Yes,
train,
yes,
right?
and
Yes.
because and
And
these are some higher level. You don't start right away like that, but it's great that you kind of get it. And don't think that you're going to go out in there and be the funniest person in the room. It's like going to Harvard, really. Like, especially if you train in Chicago. It's I maybe I'm being, at least back in the '90s. It's like, or even when I went to the University of Illinois, coming from a small parochial school of like 600 students, and then going to one of the largest universities in Illinois, and then thinking that you're going to be just as smart as everyone else. You're just a regular person. And sometimes that happens, I think, in comedy, where you're like, you're the funniest person in your group, but
Yeah.
now you're surrounded by the funniest people in their groups. So it's kind of how you learn how to do this, the improv or stand up. And again, like Steve Kimbrough says, everyone has 3 minutes in them. And I think that's enough to find out if you really love it and have a passion for it. I recently listened to something Bobby Lee was saying, and he was basically saying, it's like it's an addiction. You have to have this addiction that you almost can't live if you don't get up on stage, whether you
Mm.
bomb or not. You need to be up on stage, but then the laughs are like a drug,
It's
So
yeah, it's adrenaline for sure. I get that because I speak at my own events, and a lot of the times, even when I had like a retail store and I would do cooking demos and stuff, and I would be talking, it would be like people would just come just to hear me talk and laugh because they said I was funny, right? And it is almost like a drug. I can see that feeling definitely. But so can we just touch back? If you do want to learn, can you to say the website again, where people
Oh
can
yeah,
sign
of
up
course.
and
So if you'd like to either learn to do your stand up, and I think if you went to Podfest, it's already. I think you're already comped something. I will have to ask Steve Kimbrough how
oh,
he
I didn't
set it
know
up.
that.
So you might already, or it's like 149 for the class, or 449 for like the lifetime membership of stand up, improv, podcasting to learn if you want to learn how to podcast, or have questions about it, or film production, because we also have Maria Georgesian, who does a film. She's a film producer, and she teaches our film production course, and that's pnnacademy.org, pnnacademy.org.
I love
Um,
that. That's
and
good. So I have, before I let you go, I have five fire questions for you. I got to put
oh
my
boy,
glasses on. Okay?
okay, I'll put my glasses on too. I don't
Because I
know,
need to see. I'm aging us.
but
Okay.
then it reflects. Okay,
Are you okay?
yes.
Okay. You don't need to read. You just need to answer.
But see, I was yes anding you. Oh yeah, I also need my glasses. I
Okay.
forget, and they can
I
also
didn't
get
catch it. I'm a
they,
little slow today. All
they can
right.
also get you in trouble a lot of times because God, the one thing that pops in my mind is walking down the street with my, was she my wife yet? I don't think she was my wife yet, but we were dating heavily, and this this, this prostitute walked by across the street, and she sees me. She goes, "Hey, black Cadillac." And I go, that's right, black Cadillac. And we keep walking, and my ex goes, what was that about? I go, I honestly don't know. And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, oh, I go, here's probably what happened. She thought I was one of her clients that drives a black Cadillac. So I just agreed, like, yeah, black Cadillac, that's me. And then she goes, "Why are you?" I go, "I don't have a Cadillac." I go, "I am her client, but I don't drive." No, I'm like, no, I've never even seen her in my life. But as an improviser, you have to be careful because of that gut instinct to say yes and can get you sometimes into trouble. And I'm sure I have other examples where it's kind of gotten me into trouble because they say something and I don't hear, but I agree with them. It was like Jerry Seinfeld agreeing to wear a pirate shirt because he couldn't hear the other person. So it can happen. So you have to be careful with the superpower of yes and.
Well, I'm going to have to learn. I'm going to have to do better for sure. But I'm definitely going to sign up for some courses because I think I know I need them for sure.
But
Yeah.
yes, but
Yeah. Oh,
shows that you think your idea is better than the other person because you're like, yeah, 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 it's good, but we could do this.
ah,
Yes, if becomes transactional. Well, yes, I'll do that if we do this. But it also works like when you're negotiating with instead of that, it's like, yes, I understand where you're coming from. Let's explore doing it this way now, which is all though better than just saying no, because no, hey, let's go to the Grand Canyon. No, all right,
that's it.
scene's
The
over,
conversation's over. Exactly.
conversation's over.
Yeah.
Hey, let's explore putting new shelves in our store. No, okay, conversation's over.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all those are better options than no, or no, but, or and sometimes but then again, all rules are meant to be broken. So when you're on stage, if you're comfortable with the people you've been improvising with for years, then maybe that becomes the game, saying no. But a regular person, it would just stop the scene. But you know, so I'm sorry I interrupted your.
No, that's okay. It's good. I like listening. I like learning. It's good. It's good. Okay, you ready for these fire questions?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Word.
Does that mean I have to answer them quickly, or they're
Yeah.
just gonna? Oh God.
Well, well, let's see how they go. Let's
Okay.
start quick, and if you want to elaborate, you can elaborate.
Okay.
Okay?
Sure.
First one. Worst gig ever.
This is worst gig ever. Thinking back, I don't. I think it's always kind of the last one you have, at least for me, because I'm so critical. Like, oh, that sucked. But then you realize you got laughs. But now the worst gig I do remember as an improviser, we got booked to do, and the thing is, I think we needed to film it to submit it to a festival or something. They're like a show that you've done in the past week. We're like, oh God. So somebody offered us their venue, and it was a bar. I mean, like a restaurant bar, and the stage was literally 4 feet by 4 feet, and three of us are like 300 pounds, so there was six of us improvisers. We're like, all right, well, we're going to play off the stage and only the people in the scene are going to be on the stage. So first of all, the room wasn't set up, and then we're going through our improv, and it was going pretty well, and then all of a sudden the roof starts leaking water.
Oh.
Apparently the person fell asleep in their bathtub above this restaurant,
Ugh.
and water, we found this out later, water just starts gushing from the ceiling, and people are like, oh my God. So luckily it's improv, and I don't remember the exact line, but and I think we hadn't gotten a chance to establish where we were, which who, what, where should be established at the top of the scene. So luckily we'd forgotten to do that, so no one, we were kind of going through like, where are we, and then somebody came up with a brilliant line, is like, man, I hate working in submarines, you know
I
and the
love it.
audience laughed, and then it was our impending doom because we knew we were going to die because water's leaking in, and that was the end of the show, and it was great, and we got, so we turned something bad into something okay.
Okay, so it
uh
wasn't the worst gig
but it wasn't,
ever.
but I've never, I've always, either the few times I've done stand up, they've gone well enough because either I produced the show, and I didn't, I'm not the type of person to go, I want to put myself at the end. No, no, no. I'm going to start or open because I want the professionals that really know what they're doing to enjoy themselves and have a good show. So I wish I could think of a word, but that's kind of, so it's not bad. I mean, I've heard some stories so from comedians just, getting booed off the stage. Oh, yeah. So I brought out Latino logs to Chicago. This was the worst gig ever. I
Okay.
I brought Latino logs, which is Rick Najeda's Latino logs, and they're monologues about Latinos. And for a while there, I played Fat Matador, which is a matador who was upset because he's getting phased out, and instead of using a sword, I used a 45 a gun to kill the bull. But I was upset because they were getting rid of me because I was getting older, not because I was like 300 pounds in a matador suit. Uh, and eventually Gabriel Iglesias took over that role, Fluffy. This was back in Chicago. But I think at that same trip, also Jacob Vargas was there. And Jacob Vargas played Selena's brother in the movie Selena, and
Okay.
Joker, I think, in Next Friday, the movie Next. So he's like a well-known Latino actor. And Rick Najeda, he's written for like Matt TV and Living Color and myself. So they invited us to come and do comedy at this boxing match. And we realized you don't get between Latinos and their boxing matches because we go up there and we start talking or we start doing a sketch. People just started booing the shit out. Okay, that was the worst gig. They started booing the shit out of us
Oh
because
my God.
they wanted to see the boxing. They weren't there to see these three Latinos, no matter how famous like Jacob was, do stand up or do a sketch from Latino logs. So we just cut it cut it short, got off the stage, and then after the next in between the next fight, we're like, do you still? They're like, no, I don't think this is going to work. I think they still paid us, whatever. But they were like, this isn't going to work. I mean, they'd rather see a woman, a half naked woman, holding up a placard than three guys trying to make him laugh. It was that was the worst gig. Thank you. Thanks for reminding me of that one.
Oh, there you go. Okay, next question. Weirdest fan interaction.
Oh, that's easy. Yeah. So when I first moved to LA, uh, it was a little deceiving because within 6 months I'd landed. Well, first of all, we brought our show out, Touched by an Anglo, and our group name was called Barrio Speedwagon. So for
Nice.
those that are old enough to know that there was a group called REO Speedwagon,
Yep.
nowadays I might say that to somebody and they just give you a stare blank. You're like, oh, you're too young. You don't get REO Speed. So we were
They don't get
Barrio
it.
Speedwagon. So we're a Latino, improv group that happened to be Latino, and our hit show in Chicago was called Touched by an Anglo, and it was like Touched by an Angel, same logo, but it was Touched by an Anglo, and we did sketches like Who Wants to Be an American Citizen, where the more questions you answered, the higher up, and of course the Indian guy won because they're the smartest ones. A lot of the stuff we would maybe not be able to do today so much, maybe, or just do it and
Well,
see
that's
what
see.
happens.
Okay, let me just interrupt here for a
Mhm.
second, because I say this all the time on my podcast, and I say this all the time wherever I am. I feel like this fucking political correctness has ruined comedy because you have to be so careful because of being canceled or just being crucified online for something that we used to go back and say that, like, so I grew up very multicultural. We made fun of each other's races and did not get offended. You know what I mean? Like it was it just, I'm Greek. The jokes take it up the ass. Uh,
Oh, that's a joke.
well, yes, it's a joke
Well, you,
for
you heard
me
about the
anyway.
you heard why the Greek didn't want to leave Greece, right?
Because his dad was on his back all the time.
He didn't want to leave his brothers behind.
Well, so I'm Macedonian. So you know what the difference between a Greek and a Macedonian is? On my ass, it says exit only.
That's good.
But
Yeah,
but
yeah, exactly,
But do
exactly.
you find that if it's ruined it? Like everybody's so sensitive and I need a safe space, then I can't fucking do it. I can't be that. Maybe I have no empathy, I have no sympathy. Like I don't give a fuck.
100%, 100%. And but then again, I also think some people or comedians sometimes use that just as an excuse to not create smarter stuff. But yeah, no, I agree. The PC movement has really ruined a lot. I remember, I forget which of the Indian, American Indian, but from over there, what was it? This, not this, was canceled at a college for doing like an Indian joke, and then they're like, "Whoa, whoa, you got to stop." He goes, "But I am from like my parents are from India. We are
Yeah.
Indian," and they're like, "You can't say that here." And he was like, "Oh my god!" So that was around the time where they were canceling college gigs, and Jerry
Ugh.
Seinfeld like will refuse to do colleges, even though he's like one of the cleanest comedians ever. So I get exactly what you're saying, but maybe again, I don't want to use it as an excuse. So maybe we should put the show back out and see if it works, especially now
I
in times of immigration
well,
and
that's the
whatnot.
thing. I think the show would be fucking hilarious because of what's happening in the States, right?
Sure,
I
sure.
saw there was okay, I'm going I was scrolling, and this fucking chick drove, there was a protest for the mass deportation somewhere down
Mhm.
there, and she drove by with Vanilla Ice going, "Ice, ice, baby."
Oh God, yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, that's funny.
Come on, that's
Come
funny.
on, that's
Like,
funny.
listen,
Well, I remember in the middle of the show because Joe Nunez played the host of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Regis Philbin,
yeah.
and then the Indian guy is answering the questions before almost they're even asked. He goes, like in 1830, the war of blah blah blah. Because again, he's so smart, he already knows the answers, and he goes, "Slow down, Speedy Gonzalez." And then I come out in a poncho with a little Mexican sombrero, and I go, "It's Rodriguez, not Gonzalez."
I fuck-
So it was
you have
just.
to do it. You have to do it.
I think we should do a 20-year reunion of Barrio Speedwagon presents
I think you
Touched
need
by
to
an
do it.
Anglo.
And I'm there. Tell me when you have to do it.
Hmm.
Okay, so you
Good.
didn't even answer the question. Okay.
Oh,
Sorry.
right. Okay,
Weirdest
so
fan interaction.
So I was saying because of that show, as kind of as soon as we moved to LA, we had a manager, an agent, a theatrical and commercial agent. So it was like, wow, this is how easy. This was in like 2000. This is how easy this is. Within 6 months, I'd landed a commercial with Del Taco, and I knew nothing about Del Taco because from Chicago we had Taco Bell,
Yeah.
but so it's for Del Taco, and I was Luisito, and I was a burrito. Now, a burro means dumb in Spanish, but it also means a burrito, something that you eat. So I was Luisito, the dumb cousin, and then my good looking cousin, he was kind of the star, and I was just a sidekick, but I was always the one making dumb decisions. Um, like we found a what's it called? A rub the genie in a bottle. So we found a bottle with a genie in it, and my cousin's rub it. So I rub it. Genie pops up, and he's like, I'll grant you three wishes. And I think the first one we go. Uh, I was like. Del Taco everywhere for everybody, and boom, Del Taco goes now, and then I'm like two beautiful women, one for each of us. So they appear on our laps, and these gorgeous models, and my cousin, and then we're about to kiss them, and I look at him, I go, now leave us alone, so that everything disappears, and I almost kiss my cousin on the mouth, and and then he's like, "Ay, Luisito, you're such a burrito. You're such a dummy. You're such a burro." I was like, "Yeah, I know." So we had like a whole series of these. So
Oh,
great. So I land that. I'm kind of feeling great. I walk into Del Taco and people would start all the Latinos, because these are in Spanish. All the Latinos in back were like, "Is that Luisito? Is that him? Is that him?" And then I'd be like, "Yeah, it's me," and I'd get food for free or whatever. And then so my brother comes to visit, and we take a drive out to Vegas.
okay.
So he meets us there. So I go pick him up at the airport because I had my car there, and then I drive him back to the hotel, and this the valet sees me. He goes, Luisito. So my brother was actually like, oh my god, like people do know who he is. Like, okay. So that felt really good. So that wasn't weird. What was weird then is we go bowling, and we go to this bowling alley, and it had like, I guess, so people didn't do nefarious things in there. The doors were like half, so even if you sit to take a dump, you know, it's they can see you
Oh,
as they walk by. So this guy walks in front, and then I see him stop because the urinal's right to my right,
no.
and he kind of looks over, and he kind of just does this, and I'm like,
No.
oh my god, like maybe okay, whatever. It's maybe a gay guy, but why is he watching me take a dump? And then because I don't like to take a dump at home, so and then he goes, I'm the opposite of those people. I'm like, I'm not gonna
I'm the
follow up.
opposite. I have to go home.
Oh yeah, no, no, no. Why am I gonna mess up my toilet when I can mess up yours?
Oh.
And so he goes right next to me. There's a wall, and he starts peeing, and then all of a sudden he goes, Luisito,
Oh my
make
God.
making a burrito. He just gets louder. He goes, Luisito, making a burrito.
Okay, that's
And,
gross, Paul.
I'm just like, oh my God, what a place where to get recognized when I'm trying to take a dump.
Oh my God.
So I think
Okay,
that
that's
would be
gross.
the
That's a good
most.
one.
Is that good? Is that all
Yeah.
right?
Okay, next
Yeah.
one.
Hmm.
If you could roast anyone, living or dead, who would it be?
Oh no. Oh Jesus. Yeah, Jesus.
No, you can't. That's
Orthodox Jesus.
blasphemy.
Orthodox Jesus, though. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
No.
I'm not gonna mess with my Jesus. I'm mess.
I'm Orthodox. You can't mess with my
I
Jesus.
figured. I figured. I mean, hey, I heard there's a guy hung like this. I, wait, wait. I heard you're hung like this. I don't
You're
know.
going to
There's a
hell,
joke there
buddy.
somewhere.
You're
Yeah.
going to hell.
Okay, Hitler. I guess. I don't know.
Oh,
I
he'd be
mean,
a good to roast, yeah.
yeah, because no one's gonna get mad, and it's like, you know, yeah. But who else? Yeah, yeah. I guess
Okay.
any figure of history that maybe, well, Hitler would deserve it. Jesus wouldn't, but they say you only roast the ones you
I think
love, and
Jesus suffered enough, don't you think?
I think yeah, yeah. But he had 12 friends, and like none of them could figure out that someone was gonna betray
All
him.
right,
Like
it's not the
okay,
religious track. Let's go.
okay, all right, all right.
Okay, next question. Your dream comedy lineup.
Oh, that's good. Oh, now, well, this is a little difficult because dead or alive type of a thing, or
What? Yeah, dead or alive.
or old versus new comedians type of a thing. Because
Whatever, your dream lineup. If you could book something today and have whoever you want, whether they're dead or
yeah,
alive, on stage, who would it be?
well, I mean, because you have to go with the greats like Richard Pryor
Yeah.
and George Carlin.
Oh, I love George. Yeah.
I mean, I don't. I would have to almost say Lenny Bruce, but also, I mean, people. But no, see, this lineup would be no offense. Well, no offense. It would be like 'cause I just went to one. It would be like one of these black shows that do comedy and musicians. Like I just saw Too Short, and the show's like 4 hours long, and people are leaving. But it would have to almost be a very, which it doesn't work well with comedy. Comedy should be an hour and a half tops.
Yeah.
And but I did get to see Don Rickles.
I was gonna say Don Rickles would be on my list. He's fucking genius.
Genius, genius. And talk about non PC.
Non
uh,
PC,
he made his
exactly.
whole career at that. And
Yep.
Mr. Warmth, he was ironically called, and even the song that he came out to, the Matador song. Um,
Oh, I fucking love it.
but Winters, Jonathan Winters.
Jonathan Winters, yeah.
So
I
see, not,
remember
but
him
not.
from Mork and Mindy's. Mork and Mindy.
Yeah, yeah. But Robin
Am I right?
Williams. I never saw Robin Williams live, but I
Nanu
think that would have
Nanu.
been.
Nanu Nanu.
Um, Now the problem is, then I run out of the modern ones that I really respect and love as stand-up comedians right now, which would be people like Sebastian Maniscalco he's a Chicago guy, but
Is he the Italian guy?
he is with the
Okay.
very physical movements,
Yeah.
hilarious, just and clean, relatively clean. Nate Bargatze,
Don't
who's
know who that is.
very clean, but also, I mean, I would love to throw those guys in there. Tom Segura,
I
and
don't
but
know any of these people.
so okay, you have to go back and then watch all these. Tom and his wife Christina P do a great podcast called Your Mom's House.
Okay.
But then also, of course, I mean, not to put the women in the back, but Joan Rivers to go
Joan
with,
Rivers.
you
Yes.
know,
Again, and
uh,
not somebody that was PC.
right?
But
Yeah, but
also, I just watched her last night making fun of herself. Her, Betty White, were
oh my
were
God.
on a show together. That was quite funny.
Oh, I'll bet it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
Betty White as an entertainer, just when she hosted Saturday Night Live, just like
Yeah.
brilliant, and to do it kind of till the end of her days is amazing. Uh,
Amazing.
but there's also I'm a big fan of a comedian from she's Irish, but I think she's in the UK. Aisling B. I may not even be pronouncing it right. Aisling B is hilarious. But my favorite, really, comedian right now, and I don't think she does much stand up because she's more of an improviser, but I love everything that she does, is Diane Morgan. And she's from the UK.
I
But she
don't know
does
who that
an
is.
amazing character called Philomena Kunk, Cunk, which sounds funny.
Sounds
And
like my kind of comic.
she does a whole series. She's like a female Sacha Baron Cohen or Borat, like ignorant, or Ali G. I guess she's more like a female Ali G who's very
Okay.
dense and dumb, but she's a brilliant uh, interviewer. So she interviews uh, geniuses, people from Oxford or whatever, on whatever their subject of expertise is, the war, whatever. So she's got a series called Kunk on Britain, Kunk on the World, Kunk on maybe Christmas, but the question she asks would just leave you dumbfounded. Like one of them is she asks his professor, she goes, so uh, who was it? Who was Camelot? Who was King Arthur? Oh, she goes. So King Arthur came a lot, and
All
you can
right,
see
she's
the
my kind of
woman's
comic. I'm gonna look her up.
Philomena Kunk. Yeah,
I'm gonna do that.
the soul leaves her body. This woman, and she's like, "Well, she goes Camelot." She goes, "No, no, it says it right here, Camelot." And she's like, "No, it's Camelot, the court of Camelot." But it's questions like that, and some people think that she's really a presenter with the BBC, and are like, "Oh my God, that's the dumbest woman I've ever seen." I'm like, "Well, she's brilliant comedically."
Yeah,
So it would be a very long show, and then I
I
guess I'd
love
have
it.
too short in there, you
I
know,
lo-
come and perform.
I love it. I love it. Well, my friend, I want to thank you for coming onto my podcast and supporting me. You are a new, fast, very good friend. I consider. I can't wait to see you in person again. Yeah, think of me of panels and stuff like that. I'm
Sure.
available. I'll make sure that I'm available. But yeah, I will be in touch definitely. Maybe we can do this again, and maybe once I take the courses, we can go and do yes and I'll be better at it. Damn it!
You will be amazing because you already, the thing with yes and is most people do it all the time anyways,
Right.
but they're not even aware that they're doing it. It's when you agree with someone and get excited about doing something. But if you don't mind, I'd like to just let people know where they can find me, and then
Please
shout out
do.
to shout out to Pods. I'm like a NASCAR car, just stuff all over me. But Podstars, I'm on Podstars. So if anybody wants to book me for their podcast, you can go right through Podstars. I'm working with the Fame Exchange guys, which is uh, crypto. If your network is your net worth, so it's for artists, celebrities, actors, sports athletes, everyone. And so we're coming out with not only this but the FameX podcast, and then the Fame Coin. Speaking of coins, I just launched my coin, which is the Vato coin. If you
Nice.
go to vatocoin.com, you can find out all about that. If you go to paulvato.com, from there you can actually find everything. That's kind of where you want to go and connect with me across all social media. But thank you so much. Oh, I'm also a brand ambassador for Parse Rum, which is a Colombian rum. Yeah. So, and if anybody wants to reach out, let's get together. We'll smoke a Vato cigar. I'm usually in Vegas, but you can find me in Chicago, now Orlando often as well.
Well,
So,
let me
but
know
yeah,
next time you're in Chicago for sure.
100%. Yeah, I would love to show you my city, even though I've been gone for quite a while. But it's such an amazing city. I love it. You're guaranteed to have a great time. The people are amazing. The food is amazing. The bars are great. So, yeah, I would love that if we could connect in Chicago. That would
I
be
would love that. It's
wonderful.
not that far from me, so it's good.
Oh, right.
It's
Yeah, Toronto. That's got to be a
yeah,
short flight.
short flight. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. Give us a like, a comment, subscribe. And Paul, thank you so, so much, my friend. I'll see you on the flip side.
I'll see you on the flip side. You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
Thank you.